and welcome. I'm DFW Networking Diva, Christine Dean, and I'm here with two of my favorite people. They happen to be life coaches, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Really, it's all about how do you make your life better. And I know some people believe in it. Some people go, what is that? They've changed the names over the years, but I really think life coaches have an important role to play in our lives. So I would love you guys to go ahead and introduce yourselves. I don't care if you want to arm wrestle for who goes first, but
I'm going to be a gentleman and let Nancy go.
there you go, Nancy.
Thank you, Steve.
Tell us.
Welcome. I am Nancy Abramson, and I am a success coach. And my focus is helping small service-based business owners who are eager to scale, have thriving businesses, and also freedom with their time so that they can love their life now, not sometime later.
Yep, I can understand that. I'm thinking we need to hear a little bit about Steve too and what he's up to. And
there I am. I didn't think you wanted to show me. So my name is Steve Reed. I'm a life and marriage coach. I'm an executive coach. I'm affiliated licensed coach through the Ziglar organization, and I teach people on balance. Tom Ziglar many years ago said, the fastest way to success is to replace bad habits with good habits. So I help people develop those good habits on the life and marriage side. Basically, what I do is I help people identify what the speed bumps are, what the roadblocks are, what those nasty mud puddles and potholes are, so that we can address those things and then move forward so that they can have a more victorious life and more victorious relationship.
I love it. And I got to say, you both bring so much value to people's lives. You see people out there wandering around and they don't even know they need a life coach, right? It doesn't even occur to them, right? They're like, what? I'm fine, right? I'm fine. You're fine. I'm fine. What? We don't need this. That's it. Right. And so you don't even realize you need one until you talk to one. And then you're like, oh, yeah. How often do you realize that all your baggage you're carrying around, and that bag gets really heavy, and having somebody talk to and help work through some of those issues. And I've seen the therapist thing. They've got therapists, but that's a different role. It really is. You guys want to talk a little bit about the difference between a therapist and a life coach?
Go for it, Nancy.
So, you know what? I heard this quote recently that I love. You can live your life by default or by design. And you're living, it's one or the other. It's either by default, and for years, probably decades, that's how I lived my life, was by default. I wanted to get away from a bad job, so somebody else offered me a job and I took it. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go this way. And I was kind of like floating along, reacting to circumstances or opportunities that came. And then I started kind of learning about the design in your life and being intentional. And so I would kind of swing back and forth. And now I completely live my life by design. I am intentional about what I'm doing. And with a therapist, and I'm not a therapist, but it's kind of like helping somebody to listen to and help you through some of your problems. And I'm not here to help you with your problems as much as I will help you to get clear about what you want to design and where you're going. And then I will help you with a plan to get there. And then also remove the blocks and things that cause you to stumble along the way. Like, why are you not making those sales calls that you know to make? Why are you getting tripped up over the fear of failure or fear of success or fear of whatever? So,
Steve, I know you have more to add to that.
Well put. Now, I also am not a therapist or a counselor. However, I counsel people all the time. And one of the things that I do is I look for people's triggers. What are the things that are holding them back? What are the challenges that they are dealing with? And what is the root cause of some of those challenges? Was it because somebody, when you were 10 years old, told you you were ugly, fat, and stupid? Or is there something else? Was it an ex-spouse? Was it somebody in a previous relationship? Was it a parent? Was it a coach? Was it a teacher? Somebody has told you unfortunately a lie, and you bought it. So what we have to do, what I do, is I help people go back to those lies, eliminate the lies, and tell them the truth about who they are. And I tell them, I have them go through a lot of exercises. Number one is, if you're sitting in a room and there are two chairs in the room. I'm going to steal part of this from a friend of mine. Bob Bodine wrote the book Two Chairs, and he says you're in a room where you've got two chairs, you're in one and God is another, and you just have a conversation with God. Okay, well, my conversation goes like this: God, who am I? Give me my attributes, my strengths of who I am. Then tell me what my skills and my talents are, and then from there, what is my purpose? And when I walk people through that process, all of a sudden the light bulbs come on. That makes total sense. So I look at the past to figure out what the roadblocks were, what those triggers are, and then we start planning for the future as well. And I like what you said, Nancy, about not living by default, living by design. I totally concur with that.
Oh, I love that, Nancy. Absolutely. The idea of living by design. I think a lot of times we go with the flow too much. Like you
Yeah.
said, oh, this opportunity. Okay, whatever. Do. Right. There's not really any purpose behind it.
Right.
You go to work, you come home, then what do? You eat dinner, you sit down in front of the TV, you go to sleep, you start over the next day. There is no passion. There's no, and I know that's one of the struggles is some people are like, well, I don't know what my passion is. Do I have a passion? It doesn't even occur to them to ask what their passion is, to ask themselves that question, right?
Absolutely. And I was having a conversation. My niece just graduated high school with associate's degree. She already got so many college credits. And she came to visit Disney with two of her friends. And one of her friends also graduated with an associate's degree, honor society. They're all like smart, driven kids. And she was so upset because she was like, felt like she was like, whether it was failure or like behind the eight ball. And she was like, because she didn't have her passion. She didn't know what her passion was. And she was so upset. I don't have it. And they all say, you got to find your passion. You got to follow your passion. You got to know, I don't have a passion. I don't know what my passion is. I'm like, honey, breathe. You're only 18 years old. You don't have to have it at this point. But she didn't even think that she was allowed the grace of trying to explore. Like, there's so much pressure on people, and especially the kids these days, to have it all figured out. Like, this is the time to explore. You're 18. You have a little bit of time to find your passion.
So true. That is so true, Nancy. It's amazing. I know in my practice, I'm sure it is with you as well. But there are a lot of clients that I work with. They have no clue what their passion is, and then they're 40s and 50s and 60s, and they have no clue. I've got one client. She turned 61, 62 this year, and she is just now starting to figure out her passion. And it's amazing. So from where she was 2.5 years ago to where she is today, it is amazing to see that transformation. It's that caterpillar that's turning into the butterfly. And to see her and listen to her talk about her passions now, it's like, wow, this is a radical change. So
I love
I
that.
agree with you. Yeah. Totally.
Well, so that brings up the question, like, when do you need a life coach in your life? I mean, we mentioned younger, we mentioned older. I mean, is there an ideal age or?
I'm going to take off with this one. I think people need a life coach or a mentor or a success coach, executive, whatever. I think people need a coach, but only on days that end in Y.
Seems reasonable.
We all need
yes,
coaches.
Steve.
We all need coaches. And I use an illustration a lot when I'm working with couples. If you're I'm going to use a football analogy for a second here. If you're a halfback, you're carrying the ball. That's your job, okay? And you start running down the field, the quarterback hands off the ball, and you're running down the field, and one of the defensive guys pops the ball out. You fumble the ball. Thankfully, you catch it, okay? But, okay, that happens over and over and over again. There's a guy on the side, not a fan, not media people, but a guy on the side that he calls you over. He is your coach. And that coach says, you got to change the way you're holding the ball because you keep fumbling the ball. Okay. Now they're not going to say, now, Jamie, I want you to really think about how you're holding. No, they're going to get in your face and they're going to tell you what you need to do. Okay. So sometimes that's what a coach has to do. Sometimes we're loving and soft and gentle and caring. Sometimes we have to get in your face and we have to hold you accountable. So that's one of the things that I do. I just want to help people hold the ball properly so they don't fumble the ball.
So in your face, what do you think, Nancy?
Sometimes I do have to do that.
Mhm.
And my sports analogy that I've used lately is, if you think about Tiger Woods and how everybody said he's so gifted and he had this natural gift, he was this amazing golfer from when he was a baby practically. He has like 4 coaches just for his golf. He's got one coach for the putting, one coach for the lawn. Like, he's got so many coaches, and you think that, oh, he's gifted, it just comes easily. And for for everybody. So my invitation is, if you think about how many times you've read a book or watched a video or listened to a podcast and thought, oh my God, that was amazing. Oh my God, that's brilliant. And then how many times do you actually put it in place and take inspired action to actually use that? Oh my goodness, that was amazing, brilliant idea. So many people are like, I don't want to spend the money. I could do it myself. I have all these books and videos and I could get the information for free. Most people get insights, but they don't get results from them.
Yeah.
So with a coach, you have accountability. You have somebody that's giving you one-on-one personal insight that can hear exactly what you're saying or what you're not saying and actually cause results and breakthroughs. And that's what I do. And that's why I love what I do.
That is very
watching
true.
the transformations like you got, Steve, with that woman, that's what gives me joy and fulfillment.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask about accountability. I keep hearing that word tossed around, and I'm thinking, is everybody coachable?
No.
No.
Well, yes, everybody is accountable. However, do they resist? Do they agree? Do they comply? No. Okay. But if you're pulled over on the side of the road by a state trooper, he or she is going to hold you accountable. I promise. And they will hold you accountable. But you may not like their accountability.
But I think I heard Christine say, is everybody coachable?
Oh, coachable. I'm sorry. I missed.
Those go hand in hand.
She went from accountability to coachable, and there is a difference.
But they really do go hand in hand, right?
No, not everybody is coachable. There are some people, they just stick their heels in and they're just not going to go. I don't care what you have to say. It's just not going to happen because I don't like you. Because I don't like that. Because I don't want to be held accountable.
I don't want to be held accountable.
Yeah, I don't want somebody telling me what to do. I'm an adult. I don't need your stuff. Okay, fine.
When I was starting out, my very first coaching call was with a woman that was like, oh, who's your ideal client? That sounds like me. I've been interested in a coach. Would you like to do a practice session with me? By the way, I don't do practice sessions anymore. And she was a great lesson in who's not coachable.
Yeah.
Because anytime I asked a question or made a suggestion, she's like, nope, you don't understand. This is the way it's always been. This is the way it has to be. You don't understand the industry. I'm like, I actually kind of do. But no growth happens inside the comfort zone. And our brains want to keep us in the comfort zone. It's scary outside the comfort zone sometimes, but that's where the growth and the expansion and the results happen.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that will allow their brains to keep them safe. This is what I know.
Yes.
This is what I understand. This is safe. I'm going to stay right here in my little box.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable and happy with that.
Nancy, that is so true. Real quick, funny story. I lived in Southwest Virginia for a number of years, and I was in the mountains in Roanoke, Virginia. And I was talking to a guy that I was selling and was managing a copier company. And I walked into this guy's office. His copier's on the floor. It's in pieces. And I said, I can have that fixed within the next 3 to 4 hours if you'd like. And he says, what's the hurry? It's been like that for 3 weeks. And like, how do you function? And then he came back and he says, you're not from around here, are you? I said, no, I've actually been moved up here from Houston, Texas. He says, now we only do business with people from here. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, it's just, that's the narrow-minded, I'm in this box and I don't like it because you're disrupting my box and I can't handle that. So you're going to have to leave. I'm like, okay, fine. He was not coachable at all.
So true, right? And that's the thing. Are we coachable? Do we want to be coached? And there's a difference between saying, oh, yeah, I want to coach, but are you willing to do the work?
Right.
What does that mean when you say, are you willing to do the work?
Yeah.
How does that translate in a life coaching kind of situation? What does that look like for people? When you tell them you're going to have to work at this, and they're like, well, what does that mean? What do I have to do?
Well, for an example, my client who gets, she does the work. She'll get kind of, when I make a suggestion or an invitation to have a certain phone call or to do things, like, for example, she does not like being on the phone. She doesn't want to do the sales calls. She was like, I would much rather email or have somebody else do the calls. And when she took my invitation, much to her, like, I don't want to do it. I get these text messages. Oh my God, I called three people and 2 of them bought and signed up and bought my program. I'm like, so she resists, but she does it. Yeah. She'll do it, even if she gets a little, but then I always get these text messages with the victories afterwards. And then she teases me that I'm always like a proud mama because she does the messages and I'm like, so it's doing what's uncomfortable, but being willing to do it, to be willing to test it, to be willing to try, to be willing to step out of that safe little comfort zone.
Yeah. You know, Nancy, a lot of times in my initial goal or an executive, whatever the case is, I generally tell them the same thing. There are going to be some things that I'm going to recommend to you that may be uncomfortable, that may push you out of your comfort zone, okay? And you may get to the point where you really don't like me very much. That's okay, because I'm not doing this as part of a popularity contest. I'm doing this to help you. You reached out. We're trying to help you get to a better level in your life, whatever that looks like. I will assure you, though, if you do the things that I suggest that we talk about, I assure you that at the end, you're going to love me. So that changes, okay?
Even better, they might actually love themselves.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That is so very true. So, but you know, I had a client, and this is kind of a twofold thing. A client several years ago that we'd been working together for several months, 4, 5, 6 months. They were dealing with some mindset things and attitude things, and their default was very negative. I can't, and that won't work, etc. And we couldn't get past that. We finally, after about 4 months, got to the point where they weren't saying that anymore. And then about 3 or 4 months later, they popped one of those things in. And I listened to it. I didn't say anything. And about 10 or 15 minutes later, they did it again. And all I did was, and they said, you heard that, didn't you? I said, yeah, I did. And they said, you probably heard the first one too, didn't you? I said, yeah, I did. They said, you don't let anything get by me, do you? Or by you, do you? I said, well, you're paying me to not let things get by. So that's number
Right?
one. Well, then they came back, and this is the funniest part. So this was on a Zoom call. They said, you should be very thankful that I really respect you. I said, why is that? And he said, well, because if I didn't, I'd flip you the bird. And I said, go right ahead. You're paying me enough. You can give me a double bird. I don't care. I'm an adult. I can handle it. I've got thick skin. And they just sat there and shook their heads. And, okay, you win. I said, I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to help you grow. And then that was it. But you have to set the standard, set the stage for the right kinds of conversations with the people. And if you don't set the right stage, then you're going to miss the mark on them.
Agreed. That's great, Steve.
Well, and I'm wondering, people are resistant to change. They're resistant, right? So how do you know when you're ready? You're ready to make that step forward. I mean, it's kind of scary to make that change, just to make that phone call, right? And be like, all right, I heard this Steve guy, there was this Nancy gal, they were talking, they kind of made sense what they were saying, what do we encourage them to do? What's their first step?
Well, my thought is to answer the first question is, how do you know when you're ready? When either the uncomfortable becomes uncomfortable enough that you're willing to take action. Mm-hmm. We've all been in the space where, the weight starts creeping up and you're like, yeah, I'm not noticing, I'm not looking. And then all of a sudden you put on a certain pair of pants or you put on a certain outfit and you're like, you go to the store and like, oh, heck no, I am not going to that size. Like then all of a sudden you get your limit and you're like, okay, now I'm buying the vegetables, I'm doing salads, I'm getting to the gym. Like the uncomfortable has to become uncomfortable enough that you're like, nope, line in the sand is drawn.
Yeah.
Or you get so excited and impatient and you want the results and you're really excited about the results that you're building and you want to get there faster. If you want to get there faster, then you're not going to do it by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know why? Because I think you're not going to get there by yourself because if your counsel is the voice in your head that wants to keep you safe, you'll get there very slowly or not at all. When you have somebody that you're speaking it to, and the power of speaking out loud is powerful in and of itself because you're hearing what you're saying. You're like, oh my God, did I really just say that? Yeah, right. That's an excuse. And or you have somebody like Steve or myself that's listening for you bigger than you know yourself, that will help you get there faster. We'll pull you along the ride.
Nancy, you use the illustration of Tiger Woods. Most people would say, well, he doesn't need a coach because he's been doing this for so long. No, he needs a coach because he's been doing this for so long.
Right.
And that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize. Now, I've been doing public speaking for well over 30 years. And I want to say I'm pretty good at what I do, at my craft. And I was talking to a group of women in Detroit several months ago. And I was missing something. I don't know what it was. So I picked up the phone and called my presentation coach. I told him what I was doing. And he says, okay, based on what you said, here's what I'm hearing. And when he said that one thing, it's like, yeah, I just left one of the critical things out of the presentation. So I've been doing this for a long time. I've coached hundreds of people in public speaking and presentation skills, and I need a coach. So I recognized I needed a coach. Now, real quick story. Traveling salesman pulls up to this old country store. Owner of the store is sitting on the front porch in his rocking chair. He's got an old hound dog laying on the porch. And every 2 or 3 minutes, this hound dog lets out with a little yelp. Another 2 or 3 minutes, lets out with another yelp. 3 or 4 more times. So finally, the sales guy says, what is wrong with your dog? And that store owner says, well, he's laying on a nail. Well, why doesn't he get up and move? Oh, don't hurt him enough to move, just enough to complain about it. And yeah. Nancy, I know you've got clients like that. I do too. And I know Christine has clients like that. So, but you have to get to the point, as you said a minute ago, where the pain is so discomfortable that or uncomfortable that we have to move. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in the pain.
Right. And I think that applies, like you said, to all coaching, whether it's, I focus more with the business space and marketing coaching and helping people with their strategy for their business. Right. And like you said, they're not willing to make changes till they really are at a point where it hurts and they have to. Right. I have somebody I was talking to saying, well, I got about another month to make this work. If not, I got to go back and get a job. Well, there's motivation for that entrepreneur to really get things going. Are you going to keep doing things your way because it was comfortable and it's what you know? Or are you ready to talk to somebody who can look at the big picture from the outside, right? We come in with a different perspective to say, well, have you tried this? Why don't you do this? And they're like,
Christine,
yeah.
if I can share one other real quick story. I had with my coaching practice, I've got some things that I'm trying to do, some evergreen things that are out there. But my social media coach, she and I were talking one day, and she said, what you need to do is develop some courses and put some courses up online. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That's just, no, I'm in. And she just kept harping. I mean, she was a pest. Every few weeks, she's telling me, you got to do these courses. And finally, I succumbed to Christine's advice, and I've got my courses that I'm putting up. So I needed a coach. I needed a coach. So,
and I am an excellent nag when necessary.
Yes, she is.
Even coaches need coaches.
Yes, we do.
And not necessarily just one. Yes, Steve just mentioned his two. I have my coaching friends. This is my personal coach. This is my energy coach. This is my business coach. This is
Exactly.
It's not a weakness to recognize that you want help. It's actually a strength that you say, you know what? I'm one of those that puts Post-its on the mirror in my bathroom so that I can read and remind myself. And one of the first ones that's been up the longest, I am not alone and I don't have to do it all myself. Because as a New York girl, I lived my life that I have to have it under control. I got it. I'm not going to show weakness. And I was living and working in Manhattan. It was like, nope, can't admit that I don't know something.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I transformed that. And I don't need the reminder every day like I used to, but I keep it up anyway. That it's actually a strength when you recognize that I could go it alone.
Yeah.
I'll get there. Probably, but it's going to take me a lot longer.
Yeah.
But if I want to make the difference I want to make, and if I want to help all the people that I want to help, then it's best to get help and to get people to help me do the things that are not my zone of genius, or the things that are energy vampires and the things I don't want to do or don't like to do. Let somebody else do it. And then I could pay them and I help them by giving them the money. And then I don't have to be the one to do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses and working in your strengths. And if you need to improve on the weaknesses, then you seek out those people that will help in your weaknesses. But really, it's living in your strength. There is a fabulous movie my wife and I just stumbled on about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. And it is a coaching movie. It's all about coaching. And the title of the movie is 7 Days in Utopia. And Nancy, you mentioned golf before. The storyline, basic storyline, young professional golfer has a meltdown on a golf course in one of the tournaments. And he's on national news throwing his golf clubs in the pond and all of that kind of stuff. Well, and his father, who was his coach, is shown walking off the golf course because he has an accident driving to the next tournament, and Robert Duvall, I think it was, rides to the rescue and says, if you'll spend the next 7 days with me, I will teach you how to be an exceptional golfer. And while they talked about golf, they were talking about everything else besides golf. So highly recommend 7 Days in Utopia. Outstanding movie.
I'll
However,
have to check it out.
you won't like me at the very end because there's a cliffhanger. You will not like me, I promise.
I see a theme here, Steve. This whole not liking you thing. Is this an ongoing thing we should be worried
It's
about?
so worth it. It is so worth it. So, but there is an answer to it. You have to follow through on something that's offline. So anyway, but excellent movie.
Well, and I was something that you mentioned earlier, Steve, that really got me thinking about how y'all help people, right? Recognizing as an outside perspective, right? Being able to look at them and see things that they may not realize about themselves. And you're like, oh, shoot, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other times that we know something's not quite right, but we don't know what to do about it,
Yeah,
right? And you had mentioned triggers earlier. And to me, that's a huge area of, you realize you're acting irrationally about something and you don't always understand why or what's going on. And it makes you act in crazy ways. You guys want to talk a little bit about triggers so maybe people will recognize and go, you know what, maybe I want to do something about that.
Well, Christine, we all have triggers, good triggers, bad triggers. Okay. If you're driving down the road and you pass by a restaurant where you met your boyfriend, your spouse, your fiance, your whatever, and you look at that restaurant, that's a good trigger. I remember when we first met there, the first day, it was absolutely amazing. However, 2 blocks away, you drive by another restaurant, and that's where you broke up with a previous relationship. That's a negative trigger, okay? And you don't want to go anywhere near that restaurant. Funny story, okay? So when wife Suzanne and I started dating, actually before we even started dating, we were just chatting one day, and we had known each other for about 15, 20 years prior to this. And she said something that if she ever got remarried, it would never be in September. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of odd. So I didn't think anything about that. A month later, we're dating, we're starting to get serious. And I said, okay, you said something months ago about not getting married in September. Why is that? And then it hit me. That's probably when she got married to her ex-husband. And I said, tell me what day of I assume you got married in September. Yes. Okay. What day was it? She said, well, she told me the day. I said, okay. What time of day? And she says, well, it's 2:00. I said, Eastern time zone or Central time zone? And she says, Eastern time zone. I said, here's a little tidbit for you. We got married exactly 11 years apart to our previous spouses. Exactly to the minute. That was a trigger.
Wow.
She did not want to get married again in September. So we got married in August instead. So anyway, but the triggers, and they do all kinds of bizarre things, make us think crazy thoughts. And those thoughts are oftentimes irrational thoughts.
Absolutely. It's actually kind of crazy making because if you're being controlled in the moment, right, it just kind of grabs you and runs away with you. And you're like, afterwards, like that really wasn't me. I don't know who that was, but it wasn't me because that's not how I normally act, right?
So true.
And it can happen to the best of us, right? Yeah. But the more history you've got, right? You talked about, Steve, about working in the past and figuring out what were those issues that you were working through, right? That are coming through now. And you may have no idea that that's what it's related to.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to everybody. If you're not aware of them, then they hold the power. So you make a sales call that doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
You are in a relationship and it doesn't go well. Oh, don't want to do that again. But then every time you pick up the phone to make another sales call, you're thinking about how, yeah, this is probably not going to go well. Oh, everybody sales calls are hard. They're ugly. They're, the rejection, we have so many experiences in our life that it happens once. And if you don't have power and control over the story you're telling yourself about the circumstances of that thing, you're bound to just keep repeating it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's why you need Steve and I, so that we can help reframe it. They're like, okay, just because that happened that once, do you have evidence of a call that went well? Do you have evidence of this? Let's see if we can change your story.
Totally. Nancy, you said something about reframing. Um, Tom Ziegler, again, proud son of Zig Ziglar. I was listening to Tom not too long ago, and he made the comment that he loved when somebody told him no. So, and he was, when he first started working for his dad, he's selling books and tapes and conferences and seminars and retreats, and all of that kind of stuff. And he said he figured out, looking at his numbers, that every seventh call he made was a sale. So he started counting up all the no's. Well, there's one. Well, there's two. And when he would get to seven, get ready, folks, because you're about to be sold. And so he had that kind of a mindset. Now, was it exactly every seven? No. I mean, sometimes it was 3 and then 9, but the average was every 7 calls, he would have a sale. So if you know that going into making your phone calls and scheduling your appointments, you know that ahead of time. Okay, I know I'm going to be successful 1 out of 7. It changes your frame, your mindset.
Absolutely.
And it makes all the difference in the world when you're talking to people.
Ooh, here's a great topic right off of that. Realistic expectations.
Yes.
Absolutely. What counts as a realistic expectation, right? How do you meet it? And then you're so upset all the time because nobody's doing what you think they should be doing.
Yeah.
I say all the time that most of the problems in our lives can be mitigated or avoided based on expectations. Mm-hmm. Because it's all about the communication. Because I expected you to do something and you didn't. I expected you to not do something and you did. I expected you to say something. I expected this, and the thwarted expectations. It's all in the communication and expectations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Nancy, there's another part to that. It's the expectations that other people put on us, but then we have the expectations that we put on ourselves.
Yep.
And then we start playing the comparison game of, well, so and so, they're much better at this. I will never be as good as they are. You don't have to be as good as they are. You have to be the best person that you are. So we got to stop comparing ourselves to other people. That's where Facebook and social media in general is detrimental to our society, because we look at, well, Nancy just got back from another vacation. Well, Christine just did this and so forth. And we look at all these things and we're like, why is it I can't get those things? And so we only put the flowery things on Facebook and Instagram and so forth. We don't put the struggles on there. And as a result, our expectations are diminished because we're comparing ourselves to a lie or a fantasy that somebody else is living and showing the fantasy side of things.
And most of the time it's fake anyway.
Exactly.
Steve, thank you. You've actually just mentioned 2 of my courses in this one conversation. I teach the trap of comparison and how to stop being upset and feeling less than, and you could be excited and inspired about what's possible. And the know your numbers and grow your business. So how important it is to know your numbers, and the trap of comparison. You've hit 2 of my 3.
Well, I knew that, and I set it up
and
that
we
way.
Just met. That's fantastic. And when you were talking about the no's, and from Ted Ziegler, one of the books that I love that made such a big impact on me, I don't remember the author's name, but it's yes is the no is the go for no, yes is the destination.
Yeah.
And it's a short, fast book. It's a fun read, but boy, when I was doing sales, that had so many massive impacts between the knowing how many calls you need to make to get to the yes, and going for no's, so that when you get the yes, it's like, oh, all right, my target is getting all my no's. But the other one that was the big hit in my gut was, he was telling this story when he stopped selling because he had an internal limit. he would never spend more than $1,000
Yep.
in one transaction.
Yep.
So when he had a customer that was buying, when he got close to 1,000, he just stopped selling without even realizing it, because he's like, oh, he's done.
Yeah. They reached their maximum, what they perceived was their maximum potential.
Exactly.
And they shut down.
Judgments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Hey, guilty. I've done that myself. And it's not pretty when that happens. So
Yep.
And that's where the life coach comes in, right? All your coaches, they tell you that your potential is beyond what you can see, right? You start with this dream. You know, I was talking to one of my clients and they're talking about, you know, I want to help people. I have this nonprofit. So they've got this nonprofit. I said, well, what if you took that nonprofit national? What do you mean? What about affiliates? What about other chapters? The Red Cross does it. They serve the world.
Yeah.
Why can't you? And they just stopped. It's like, I couldn't I? It just, they had never thought that big, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they mentioned, oh, well, we could do national. I go, why stop yourself there? Why are you putting borders on yourself? And, you know, getting people to think about the potential and what they can do and what their possibilities are. The only person holding you back is you.
I do have a client that when we first started working, she had one assistant and they had to go out and service all the clients themselves. And when we started talking about like growing and scaling the business, and she's like, well, how am I going to be able to handle all of those clients? I'm like, you're not going to be the one doing it. You're not going to be the one servicing and going out doing all of the calls. Wait, what? And she keeps laughing about it. She's now up to 9 employees.
Oh, good for her.
She thought she had a business before, but she didn't. She just had a job, and because she couldn't take time off without the money stopping. Yeah. Now she legitimately has a business and 3 teams that can go out independently.
That's cool.
And then I do my happy dance.
I don't think our clients have any idea how excited we get. This is why we coach, is because we like to see other people succeed and we like to be able to help lift them up, right? And I don't know if they understand how excited we get when they share their wins with us, right? When I get a message from a client says, I just got, 24 leads in less than 24 hours. Thank you for doing my Facebook ads. I go, yes, I'm dancing. I'm doing my little happy dance, Nancy. I totally get it. Because you're like,
I think I get more excited for their wins than my own wins.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I had a client several, 2-3 years ago that I like working with people, giving them the tools. I know you do also, Nancy, and you, Christine, but I like giving people the tools so that they don't, hate to say it, so they don't need me all the time. Okay. It's a lousy business model, but I was sharing some things, some tips with this one particular client. And several weeks later, they were describing a scenario to me that they were sharing with somebody else. And I just sat there and I started to grin. I mean, it was like a Cheshire cat, the banana sideways thing. And they're like, why are you grinning so much? And I coined a phrase. Okay, this is one of my quotes. Legacy happens when the student becomes the teacher. And they had become the teacher. And so our job isn't just to change and manifest new skills, new talents, new mindset, all of that in one person, but who can they manifest those same things, those same tools with, so that they're actually multiplying their impact, not just showing up and taking care of themselves.
Exactly, Steve. That's great. I agree 100%.
So we're offering all these training and helping. And so, Nancy, you touched a little bit on your courses. I want you to hit them again. Tell us a little bit more about what each course can do, what that value that can bring, how they can get to those courses. And then, Steve, I'm going to have you share your courses too that you're working on.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So far, I'm still doing them live. I have not yet recorded them for download, but that's in the near future. It's the Know Your Numbers and Grow Your Business. And the free gift that you are so wonderfully scrolling on the bottom is a great report that I put together. That's 3 crucial numbers that you need to measure to have a thriving business and have more free time. So I have that teaching, like, what are the numbers that you need to know? Why do I need to know my numbers? Yeah. Because when I wasn't watching the right numbers, when I was so busy having fun in my first real business, I was loving what I was doing. I was making products, I was selling products, and I was going along. And even though with my very strong accounting background, I wasn't watching my numbers and I didn't see the signs when the economy turned, it was not able to pivot. So I'm very passionate about helping people to know, like, are you profitable? Are you making money? Is your company growing? Is it shrinking? So that is one. The trap of comparison. So as we mentioned, and then my big one is the productivity to profitability.
Yep.
With my signature 3 P's of planning, I will help you to make more money in less time.
And who doesn't want that, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And probably fewer diversions along the way because they're listening to their coach.
Exactly.
So,
Well, and I help. It's the first P is the power to say no to distractions and things that don't move you towards your goal.
oh, that's good. That's good.
Well, you talked about intentional earlier, right? And making
Yep.
the decisions. And that's huge, right? A lot of times we just go with the flow. If you have a goal, you have something to work towards.
Yeah.
You're never going to get there if you don't have that goal. So you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. If you don't have a direction, how do you know if you're going to get there? And was it like the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz? It's that way.
Exactly. Great illustration.
I'm just going to click my heels 3 times. What are you talking about? I'll be
I've
there.
tried that. And I've had really fun red shoes and I've tried it. I'm so tired. I just click my heels. I just want to be home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. And you know what? I was still standing on the same street.
Go figure. Well, so tools to help people. We are not advocating the ruby red slippers.
No, they
You
generally
can
don't work.
have the ruby red slippers. They are fun. They just will not give you
Not
the results that
practical
you think.
whatsoever for a tool.
That's movies.
Well, Steve, I know you've got some tools that you like to use when you work with your clients. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, I've got one course that is online right now, Stephen Reed Coaching.Solutions, or you can find me through Stephen Reed Ministries. The first one that I published is called Finding Emotional Freedom. And the whole point to that is finding out what those speed bumps are, those potholes that we've had in the past. And I walk people through. It's about 2.5 hours of video content, but about 10 hours of overall content that people have to go through. And when they go through this, they really will release some of the chains that are holding them back. So that one is online right now. It's available. The second one that I'm doing the recordings for is called Becoming the Best You. It's a 12-week program. And it is based in part on Tom Ziglar's book, Choose to Win. I've also got Learning to Soar. Composition of a Dream is one of my favorite ones. And it's a 7-step process to achieving your dreams. And I just went blank on the last one. But I've got another one that's in the process right now. I figured out I do a lot of marriage coaching as well. And I figured out some systems that have worked extremely well with my couple clients. And so I'm going to be developing a course where people could go to that as well. So that's what I've got. Now I'll remember that 5th course someplace after we hang up, probably.
Plenty of things to keep us busy, lots of tools to play with. And I know other things. Disc assessment is another one.
That's it. Disc 101. That's how I got my start coaching, using disc. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Christine.
See, what did you say, Steve, before about how you've been doing it for so long that you get comfortable and you forget? That's why you need coaches to...
Yeah, no, right. I need a memory jogger. So,
and
anyway.
Speaking of the coaches, before my visibility coach yells at me, because some people might not be watching this, might be listening, that let me say audibly that my website is empoweredwithnancy.com, and the free gift that I spoke about is empoweredwithnancy.com/free gift. So if people are listening and not watching, I didn't want them to feel like they were missing out and losing out.
Absolutely, Nancy. Steve, you want to share audibly how to
Sure.
contact you?
Well, the primary website is StephenReedMinistries.com. Now that's Stephen with a PH, StephenReed Ministries.com. That's my general website. Then I also have Stephen Reed Coaching.Solutions. And like Nancy, she's got a free gift. If somebody is looking to go to the next level, then I do either a 30-minute or a 1-hour strategy session with somebody. Depends on what they qualify for, but that I charge big bucks for that normally. But I'm happy to give that as a gift today.
There you go. So if you're looking for some help, we've definitely got some tools are available. I know for myself, I love coaching, like you said, small businesses, nonprofits. I love working with people that have a passion. If you don't have a passion yet, you want to talk to one of these guys first. Go talk to Nancy, go talk to Steve, get your passion. Once you got your passion, come visit me and we'll help make it reality, right? But that's what I love to do, whether the nonprofits. And so I always offer free consultations also, just to kind of get people reignited their excitement of what they're going to do. That's a huge thing, because without that passion, you don't want to do anything. You got to have your life coach to help get you going where you want to go. And so if that area is a business, reach out and let me know, because I love to help also. And I think that's why I love coaches. Coaches want to make the world a better place.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
Sure.
I was in the corporate world for more years than I want to admit, because then you'll know how old I am. But working in Manhattan, crazy hours. I was on that hamster wheel, working 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, almost every night, and doing what was expected of me. And I thought that that's what it was supposed to be like. And I was living for the vacations, living for the rare time off, living for when life was going to get better later. We're not guaranteed a later. And you know what? Life is now. Like, if you're not enjoying the now, then you're just wasting it. It's not because, it's heartbreaking when you see how many people from the older generations that would stay with one business for, their life, 30, 40 years. And then they finally retire and they have the retirement party, and then they die.
Yeah.
And they don't get a chance to enjoy. They've been working so hard to enjoy later.
Yeah.
That's why my passion is to help people have the thriving business, but the freedom of their time, and live their life now and enjoy their life now.
Yeah. Well, and Nancy, what you're saying there is, a lot of times people get into that routine, that rut, whatever it is, of working for that corporate environment, whatever it is, whether it's a small business, big business, whatever the case is. But all they know for that 20, 30, 40 years is that business. So when they do retire, they don't start searching out a new passion. And that's why they die very quickly thereafter. They just sit on the porch and they start rocking, and they don't develop the new passions in life. What is your new dream, your new goal? Is it something totally different? And who are you giving to instead of, the corporate environment? So you got to keep the passions alive every day.
Absolutely. I had a friend that was a surgeon, and he said, well, I'm going to be retiring soon. So these last couple of years, I'm developing hobbies. So I'll have something to do when I get out. I don't be one of those people that retire and keel over 2 days later. It's like, I'm going to do stuff. I'm like, all right, you do you, know,
Awesome.
And they picked a new hobby that they'd never done before, in their 70s. 60s, whatever it is, it's like, go for it. Go do something different. Life is too short to be waiting for the perfect moment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is so true.
Any last words for our audience before we sign out today?
Well, obviously, you can tell by Nancy's and my conversations and bantering that we are exceptional in our coaching skills. So you want to hire one or both of us. Nancy's got her specialties. I've got my specialties, and I work with other coaches on different things. But hire somebody, swallow that 5-letter word, pride, and acknowledge that you actually are not perfect. You could always use some help. So hire a coach.
Excellent. I agree. And if you want to be like the most successful people out there, they all have coaches. So model what's been working for other people.
Exactly.
So if the most successful people, this is how somebody got me to do an ice bath, which I did not like, by the way. But if the most successful people are doing something like working with other people and working with coaches, maybe there's something to that. And you might want to do those success actions as well.
Yeah.
So yes, talk to Steve, talk to me, talk to Christine, depending on what you want, what results you're looking for.
What your goals are.
Exactly.
Be the best you. And that's what we're all about. Entrepreneur
Exactly.
spirit and wanting everybody to succeed. I just wanted to say thank you both so much for coming on and talking and sharing your wisdom with everybody out there, because I think life coaches are so valuable. So I would highly recommend reaching out to Steve Reed, executive coach, or marriage coaching, whatever it is that you need. Nancy Abramson has some amazing things going on with her business. You see all those classes they both got. I mean, you guys just have a wealth of knowledge to share with people out there. And I know you want to see people grow, inspire, and be the best versions of themselves. So thank you so much for coming on DFW Networking Diva. I'm sure I'll have both of you back at some point in the future.
Together, I hope.
Thank you. That would be
Together,
wonderful.
I hope. This was a blast. I love this.
Thanks,
And
y'all. Say goodbye to our guests. And
thank you, Christine, for having us and for creating
Thank
this space to provide this for people. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, y'all. We're tuning out. Say goodbye. Farewell.
Bye.
Bye, guys.